MAGA and Trump community, I'm a little bit concerned, and there's a blind spot I want to bring up to you. While all this stuff is going on tonight, a lady named Kamala had a packed house in Arizona. You know who showed up? The same people that were not happy about what happened in 2022 midterms, 2 weeks before midterms. And while everybody thought there was going to be a red wave, there was not a red wave. Got it. All the shots and mocking and making fun of her, thinking like, yeah, she can't beat you. She can beat you. 49-47 is what the number is right now, with her having the lead over you.
Donald Trump has been swamped with bad news as Vice President Kamala Harris continues to dominate the polls, fundraising, and overall energy. And to make matters worse for Trump, yet another major MAGA influencer, one of the biggest in the world, is now publicly sounding the alarm and directly criticizing Trump for some stupid decisions that he's made recently. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have a couple of clips to look at in this video. As I've talked about in previous videos, MAGA is sounding the alarm, right? Donald Trump may be in denial. He may be too stupid to recognize that he is losing this election, but that is true. As of this very moment, this moment in time, Donald Trump is losing the election to Vice President Kamala Harris. And there are smart Republicans out there who recognize that fact, even though they dare not tell him that, and certainly not tell him that in public. And we talked about in previous videos how devoutly loyal people to Donald Trump, like Nick Fuentes and Laura Loomer, are publicly sounding the alarm. Well, we have to add another name to that, Patrick Bet David, somebody we talked about on this channel before. We'll get into that in just a second, but for context, I need to remind you of what happened. So Joe Rogan, the biggest podcaster in the world, who was Trump friendly, certainly more right-leaning in the past 4 years in particular, well, even though he personally prefers Donald Trump to the Democrats, he recently opined publicly that he thinks Vice President Harris will beat Trump in the election. And then the day after, he seemingly tacitly endorsed RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., because he believes that RFK Jr. is smarter than Vice President Harris and Donald Trump. And these two things back to back, Trump interpreted as a betrayal. So he publicly lashed out at Joe Rogan. We did a video about it. Now, Joe Rogan, in turn, prior to Trump lashing out about it, tried to walk this back. Oh, I'm not endorsing RFK Jr. I'm just saying I like him. I'm a dummy. Don't go to me for politics, right? So there seems to be tension in MAGA world with respect to Donald Trump. But what's interesting is very high-profile MAGA influencers, including Tim Pool, are begging Trump not to pick another unnecessary, stupid fight with somebody like Joe Rogan. He's already doing it with Georgia governor, popular Republican governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. They're begging him not to do it with Joe Rogan. Well, again, he did it anyway. And so this prompted Patrick Bet David, a guy who the PBD podcast has 2 million subscribers at the time of recording. His Valuetainment right-wing culture war network, they have 5 million YouTube subscribers. This guy is a major player on social media and on YouTube. And he is a Trump supporter, an outspoken supporter of both Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. Well, Trump's recent stupidity, now I'd argue Trump only ever does stupid things, but his recent stupidity and picking fights with people like Rogan prompted Patrick Bet David to drop a 3-minute video on TikTok condemning Trump's decision and warning him to change course immediately. So we're going to play this and unpack it together.
MAGA and Trump community, I'm a little bit concerned, and there's a blind spot I want to bring up to you. What benefit do you get from calling out Joe Rogan for complimenting RFK? What benefit? What benefit do you get from saying, I wonder how people are going to boom at the next UFC fight when Joe Rogan walks in? Do you realize who are the only two names that have been constant the last 20 years in the UFC brand? One guy's name is Dana White, who is feared and respected. The other guy's name is Joe Rogan, who is loved, liked, and respected. You think UFC is going to flip on Joe because he complimented RFK on the vaccine position, that he fought Fauci and we wrote this book? You think they're going to do that? And why would you even call out Joe Rogan when Joe Rogan is friends with Dana and put Dana in a tough spot to have to defend you and Joe? And obviously Dana's he's a pro, he's a boss, he's a street guy, he's dealt with everybody. He's not going to have a problem handling that. But do you think that's the right move? And it gets me to continue thinking about this and saying, while all this stuff is going on tonight, a lady named Kamala had a packed house in Arizona. You know who showed up? The same people that were not happy about what happened in 2022 midterms, 2 weeks before midterms, when Supreme Court flipped the Roe v. Wade abortion position and put it back on the states. And while everybody thought there was going to be a red wave, there was not a red wave. Got it. And those people haven't forgotten about it yet because it's an important issue to them. And they may come out in 2024 because 2 Supreme Court positions could flip in the next 4 years, and they don't want to give that to you. Oh my God. So they may not be voting for Kamala. They just don't want you to choose the Supreme Court positions. They're not voting for Kamala. That's all they're doing. And so it seems like All the shots and mocking and making fun of her, thinking like, yeah, she can't beat you. She can beat you. 49-47 is what the number is right now, with her having the lead over you. Yeah, but that's not going to happen. So this is the problem that I have with MAGA that I think is a little bit concerning. Here's how it works. I feel like the level of loyalty you get from MAGA, you expect to get from independent voters and libertarians who are willing to vote for you, but they're not 100% sold out to you. The management of those types of relationships is very different than a MAGA crowd that'll do anything for you. If you want to win, you have to stop looking at independent and libertarian voters the same way as you do as MAGA, because it's not going to happen. Less than 90 days left. This thing's going to go like this. And if we go the way we're going right now, and we continuously choose the wrong enemies, Joe Rogan an enemy, you know how many good things he's been saying about you the last year, 18 months? Nobody ever thought he was going to say that. What's the benefit? There is no benefit. My suggestion would be to MAGA and Trump community, if you're close to him, call Joe, have a call with him. You know how to get a hold of him. Just have a phone conversation with him and say, hey, here's my position with you. And then see if you, Joe, and RFK can have a meeting together. Could be off camera. I think Lincoln wrote a...
So he goes on like that. Okay, this is Patrick Bet David again. 2 million subscribers on his PBD podcast, 5 million YouTube subscribers on his valuetainment section. This guy carries enormous clout and influence. He's interviewed Sam Cedar, the Majority Report, David Pakman. He's lost all of those debates, by the way. Destiny. I'm not saying the guy is particularly skilled in debaters. He's particularly skilled in defending his positions, but he's enormously influential, and he is an outspoken Trump supporter, and he is yet another major Trump supporter who is begging Trump to reverse course, saying, you're an idiot. Why are you picking these unnecessary fights in a contest that you not only can lose, but that you are currently losing? And to give PBD his due, you know, broken clock is right twice a day, right? The recent polls show enormous momentum for Vice President Harris over Trump. New poll shows Kamala Harris leads Donald Trump in 3 crucial battleground states. Harris has surged to a 5-point lead over Donald Trump in a new Reuters Ipsos poll, putting her at 42% to the Republicans' 37% nationally, with less than 3 months to go in November's election. She is just dominating him every which way. According to CNBC, Vice President Harris erases Donald Trump's lead on the economy among younger Americans. Now, generally speaking, younger Americans favor Democrats anyway, but there was enormous disillusionment with President Biden, in large part, I think, due to his management of the foreign conflict between Israel and Gaza, but also just disillusionment in general. But the economy is something as a polling issue on which the Republicans enjoy an enormous, decades-long perception advantage. Now, I would argue that the economy, certainly on most macroeconomic metrics, from GDP growth to job growth to unemployment to wage gains, et cetera, and so forth, average stock market performance, they perform better when Democrats are in power. But the perception is for decades that if you want a strong economy, you need a Republican in office, even though the facts say otherwise. And Donald Trump, we talked about it in a video months ago, Donald Trump maximized that lead among Republicans versus Democrats to a 30-year high. And now that advantage is practically gone. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if Trump was able to get it back somehow. We have 3 months until the election. But the momentum is clearly on the vice president's side. She's dominating the polls, one poll after another in swing states nationally. He mentioned, Patrick Bet-David, this is probably what's going to hurt Trump the worst or the most, because Trump put so much emphasis on crowd size and turnout to rallies. Well, she packed in like 20,000 people at a rally in Arizona that we covered at the time of recording on our live stream yesterday. She has energy on her side, too, in ways that President Biden simply didn't. So, listen, I'm not a particularly big fan of PBD, but he is giving Trump very sound advice if Trump wants to win this election. The question is, will Trump adhere to it? Now, I hope he doesn't, because I think the guy would be a disastrous president. He's already the worst president in American history. He's a proto-fascist, a moron, a malignant narcissist. He's visibly declining. The polls, we want to talk about polls. The polls say that he's too old to be president. He's too physically unfit to be president, and he's too mentally unfit to be president. So I hope Trump continues as he has been and doesn't take the practical approach. But I think it's worth remarking that Trump is doing so terribly that even members of his Republican cult are publicly sounding the alarm about the stupid, unnecessary decisions that he's making, and I love it. Let me know what you think in the comments.